Hello CraftDee Family, and welcome to another tutorial by She's So Crafty. For today's DIY project, we'll be creating some really cute and functional modern farmhouse style pieces for your home. Now these pieces feature a combination of wood, metal, and cotton, along with an optional leather look trim. Now I've incorporated some greenery and several small decorative accents in these displays, but you can customize these into your farmhouse, modern, or even boho style decor. Now for your convenience, I provided the complete list of supplies and tools that I use to make these projects in the description box below. Now I am so ready to jump right into this tutorial with you, but before we start, I wanted to say hey, and welcome back to my wonderful subscribers and visitors to my channel. If you are a new visitor to my channel today and you loved great fun and easy DIY projects on a budget, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and also click that notification bell so you will be the first to know when a new DIY tutorial is ready to share with you. So now, let's just jump right into these projects. Now this project is a pair of hanging planters. Now for this project, we're going to need 2 galvanized metal planters, and we get these from the Dollar Tree. We'll need 2 of these thicker cotton nautical ropes from Dollar Tree. And we'll also need 2 of these plant hanger chains from the Dollar Tree. Now for this project, we are going to start with the metal planters, and I'm going to put 1 to 2 coats of this Zinsser 123 primer on all of the surface, including the outside and the bottom. Now while those dry, we're going to work with a nautical rope, and what we want to do is cut apart that rope, and what we're going to do is actually be separating these into individual strands. So I'm taking my scissors and I am removing that tape at the top and then starting to carefully unravel those strands. Now once your strands are all unraveled, I want to wrap a piece of tape around each end, and this will prevent any unraveling while we work. So now that the ends are all taped, we can go ahead and grab our buckets from outside, and they are nice and dry. So for my final coat, you can choose to use some chalk paint or you can use some acrylic paint. Now I chose to use acrylic paint for my final coat, but you can use either or. Now I'm going to be painting the outside of the bucket and the bottom side. Now the reason for me painting the bottom side is because these are hanging planters and they may be seen while hanging. So I'm going to make the bottom white, and I'm also going to make the surface white, and I'm only going to paint down about 2/3 of the way since the bottom will be covered with the rope. Now you also want to get that top edge as well, and when that's done, go ahead and finish this on the other planter. So now that the planters are nice and dry, you can see that line where the finished paint is and the primer is. So now we can go ahead and start to add our rope. Now we're going to start around the bottom, so we're going to take the rope and I'm going to apply some hot glue to the very edge of the rope and then kind of cool it down a little and twist the ends so they won't fray. Now you can use silicone fingers if you want, but I've been doing this so long my fingers barely feel the hot glue. So I'm just going to go ahead and start at the bottom by applying a dab of hot glue, and I like to start at the side seam of my buckets. It just seems like a more clean finish because the front and back have no seams. So just apply that hot glue around the bottom and press that rope into place. Now I do have my Surebonder wood glue sticks in my gun, but you could use the regular or the wood ones for this project. Now once that rope meets up with that bottom, you want to just connect the ends and then kind of curve that rope over to the top of that first row and then continue to hot glue and wrap it around. Now once you end up about 4 rounds going around with your rope, go ahead and clip it right at that side seam, and then you want to add some more hot glue to the end so it doesn't fray. Now once you do that, you just hot glue the end of that strand in place, making sure that the end lines up with that side seam of your planter. So now you're going to take your second rope, go ahead and finish off that end with some hot glue as well, and then you want to meet up at the very end of that first rope, press it in place, and then continue to wrap it around just the same way as we did that first. So once we finish that second 4 rounds, you want to cut it at the end at that side seam and hot glue it into place. And here is what the trim will look like. And now you just repeat this process for your second planter. And here are both of our planters completely trimmed out with the rope. Now I wanted to make some accent trim, so I'm going to be using this belt that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. Now I was really surprised to see these, so I did pick up a few of them and I saved them just for projects like this. Now if you don't have a belt, you can also use some faux leather trim or some faux ribbon. I know Dollar Tree carries this, but I haven't been lucky enough to find any, but you could use any kind of trim that you like. Now, if you are choosing the belt, we're just going to start with trimming off the buckle part and then trimming off the other end where it starts to form that little angle. Now, I will be cutting my belt down the center, so I'm going to use my grid mat as a help to try to find the center. So I'm just going to take my ruler, line it up in the center of my belt, and then mark down the center with a pencil. Now once we have this line all the way down the belt, I'm just taking a pair of heavy-duty scissors and I am going to be cutting my belt in half all the way down until we have two separate strips. Now I'm going to take one of those strips and I am going to cut it at about 11 3/4 inches, and then I'm going to repeat this on the other one, just lay it right on top and cut it at the same length, then set these small pieces to the side. So now we're going to take the longer pieces that are left over and we're going to be using these to wrap around our planters. So I'm going to take the end of that strip and I'm going to line it up with that same seam we started our rope pieces are, just to make sure it fits. Now we can start adding hot glue to the belt trim, line it up with that side seam and start adhering it in place. Now I like to adhere just a few inches at a time, just in case I need to make adjustments as I go, but you want to complete this all the way around your planter. Now once we meet up at the end, if there's any overlap, we're just going to kind of make a mark with your thumbnail and go ahead and make sure it is nice and aligned, and press and place some of that hot glue right on that trim and press it into place. So here is one of the planters all completed. Now we just want to repeat this process for your other planter. So now we can start to work on the chain, and these plant hangers are awesome. They come from Dollar Tree and they come with 3 chains. Now we'll only need 2 for our project, so I'm taking my needle nose pliers, I'm opening up that connection for that 3rd chain and then clipping off that ring at the very top that holds it to the main strand. So now we have 2 complete strands. Now we will be needing to hang these on our buckets, so I will need something to hold it, so I'm going to be drilling holes in the side. Now if you don't have a drill, you can always use a nail, and all you have to do is hammer the nail on the inside with your hammer and it will create a hole for you to use, but I'm going to be using my drill in this project. So I'm just going to take my drill and I'm going to drill a hole about 1/2 inch from the top of the bucket, and I'm going to repeat this on each top side of our planter bucket. And here are our 2 holes ready to go. So now all you have to do is repeat this for your other container. Now to add our chain to our bucket, I'm just going to open up that clasp and insert it from the outside of the bucket in. And as you can see, it hooks in fairly easily, and then repeat this on the other side. Now, if you have trouble with the clasp, you can open it up a little bit with your pliers and then hook it into place. And now we have one of our hangers completed. Now we're going to repeat this for the second bucket, but I wanted my chain to be a little shorter. So what I did is counted up about 8 links, and then I'm going to cut these links off at that point. You can either open it up or you can clip it off, and then add that clip back in place. And then just clamp it down, and there you go. You have a shorter chain, and then repeat this process on the other side. And here is your hang chain for your second bucket. Just clamp it into place, and now you have your shorter hanger and your larger hanger. So now all you have to do is decorate and hang. And here are my 2 pots hanging up, and I really love how in these look. Now I chose to fill mine with a little eucalyptus, and it looks great for springtime. And I think that the rope and the leather look trim really look great together, but you can choose any combo that you like. You guys have to let me know in the comments, what would you trim your containers with? Now this project is a 3-tiered wood shelf display. Now we'll need 3 wood trays from the Dollar Tree. And we'll also need 2 of these large plant hooks from the Dollar Tree. Now the first thing we're going to do is cover up those side holes of our trays, and I'm just going to use some leftover craft sticks for this. So I'm just going to lay it across the opening of the tray. I'm going to mark some cut lines and then cut it with a pair of scissors. Now once that stick fits comfortably inside and covers up that hole, what we're going to do is take our hot glue gun and apply some hot glue on each side. Now I am using my Surebonder wood sticks for this, but you should be able to use any hot glue sticks that you like. Now once that hole is covered, we're just going to repeat this process until all of the holes on all of the trays are covered. So now that those are ready to go, we are going to be staining these. Now, of course, I am going to be using my Jacobian stain by Minwax. Now, all you want to do is to take your rag and you want to be staining the inside and the outside of all of your trays. Now, if you all recall, I did make a 2-tier tray in a previous DIY, but I am really excited to give my creative spin on this 3-tier tray for you all today. So once that one tray is stained, you want to repeat this for your other 2 trays until all trays are stained and let them sit out 2 to 3 hours to dry. So now all of our trays are dry and we can start assembling our shelf. So go ahead and grab those hooks and remove all of those tags. Now we're going to start by laying out the grid mat for alignment, and I think this is an important step to make sure everything is nice and even. So I'm going to lay out my hook nice and even, and then I want to tape it into place with some painter's tape. And then I'm going to lay each one of my trays along the hook, making sure that they're all spaced evenly. Now once they are spaced evenly, I'm going to use a combination of E6000 and hot glue to adhere these to the hook. So I'm going to start by adding E6000 to the hook first and then applying dots of that hot glue along the area where the tray will be adhered and then press it firmly into place. Now for the middle shelf, I'm going to do the same thing. Apply some of that E6000 and make sure you add your hot glue right on top. And then once you press that tray into place, you want to repeat that for the very last shelf right on top. Make sure you add your E6000 and hot glue and make sure that is secure. So once those are all initially in place, we are going to be adding our second hook right on top. Now that middle shelf may not be super stable since it's only one bar securing it to the shelf. So I'm just placing one of my little sticks under one side to make sure it's nice and even. So now I'm going in with my chalk marker and I am marking where I will be applying the glue for this final piece on the side. Now once you're marked, go ahead and flip it over and you want to add your E6000 in between those marks on the opposite side that you marked, just to make sure you know exactly where to place it on your shelf. And once those 3 areas have that E6000 on there, you want to go over them with a few dots of that hot glue on each section. Then you want to quickly place it into place, making sure that it is nice and even, and then press it firmly. Now I'm just using one of my tools here to get any kind of glue that oozes out of the seam. Now once everything is in place, I'm just placing a piece of scrap wood right on top and adding a little weight so it's nice and secure, and let this sit overnight. So the next morning I picked up my shelf and everything looks secure. Now if you do have some white residue left over from your glue, there's an easy remedy to that. And what I did was I actually painted over it with some black acrylic paint, and it actually looks like welding. So it blended into the final project very well, and you'll see it in the final display. And here is my shelf all decorated and on display. I really love how this one turned out. Now I'm so glad that you all requested the 3-tier shelf, because using those planter hooks really make it look high-end. And as always, the wood trays are the star of the show with that beautiful stain. You guys have to let me know what you think about this version of the shelf. Now this project is a pair of candle or plant vases. Now you'll need one of these 9-inch and 7-inch cylinder glass vases from the Dollar Tree and the remaining 2 single strands from these Nautical rope pieces. So what we want to first do is take our 2 vases and we are going to be measuring them at the 4-inch mark from the bottom. Now I'm just using my chalk marker to do this, and I'm measuring at the 4-inch mark all the way around the bottom of the vase. Now once that mark is on both of the vases, I'm going to take some of my electrical tape, or you can use painter's tape. I like electrical tape because it fits curves a lot better and it's a lot more snug. So I'm just laying that electrical tape around the vase, making sure I line it up with the lines and dots that we just made. Now once that's done, just repeat that on your second vase. Now clean off the bottom part of the vase because we are going to prepare this for paint. Now to paint these vases at the bottom, what we're going to be doing is using some white chalk paint. So I'm going to take my paint and I want to start by adding the paint around that bottom edge of the tape and the glass, and this kind of creates a seal between the 2 pieces. And then I'm going to continue to paint our vase about 2/3 of the way down. Now we don't need to paint all the way down because we will be adding that rope trim to the bottom. Now I'm going to repeat this for both vases, and we want to let it dry and we want to put 2 coats in between. So now that our 2 coats are completely dry, we can go ahead and remove our tape. Now you can see the clean line that this electrical tape has left, and now we can move on to the next part, which is adding our rope. Now we're going to add 1 strand for each one of the jars, and we're going to be wrapping it around the bottom. So of course we're going to end up securing that in with the hot glue first, and then applying it along the bottom edge of the vase. So just place some of that hot glue right on the vase, and then add your rope right at the very bottom. Now we're going to continue wrapping this around until we have the entire strand of that rope piece on the vase. And once we reach the very end, we do want to make sure the ends line up. And I was so lucky, the end of this rope actually ended up where I started vertically, so this was perfect. So we're just going to hot glue that end right into place. And now I'm going to actually add that extra piece of leather trim that we trimmed off earlier in the DIY project for the planters, and we're just going to add it to the top of this rope. So I'm just going to trim it down to size and then start adding my hot glue to that leather-like trim, starting at the same seam where the rope began and the rope ended. Just apply some hot glue behind that little leather piece and start wrapping it around the bottom of the vase. And then just press it into place until the ends meet. And then you just want to repeat the process for your second vase. And so here are your vases, and you're ready to decorate any way that you like. So here are my 2 vases on display as candle holders. Now I really love it. Now I added some paper filler topped with black rocks and candles from the Dollar Tree to get this look. Now these make great coordinating pieces with the planters as well. And here is the version as a plant display. Now, I added a couple of fern bunches from the Dollar Tree to finish off this look. Now, I have to say, I love all of these projects today, but you guys have to let me know which one of these DIYs today was your favorite. Let me know in the comments below. Listen, if you love DIYs on a budget, please give this video a thumbs up and share this video with your friends. Make sure that you're following She's So Crafty EE on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest for the latest news, sneak peeks, and giveaways. Now, if you like videos like these and you don't want to miss the next one, make sure you're subscribed by clicking the subscribe button below, or just click on my She's So Crafty logo on your screen, and make sure you hit the bell to be notified when the next DIY goes live. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.